Okay, good morning children. I welcome you to witness my presentation. Today I would like to teach you the lesson from geography from our 10th class, resources and development. Children, we are all human beings, all people using so many things from the waking up from the bed until go to bed, from morning to till night, that making our life more happy and comfortable. We can usually say them, call them as the resources. Then children, see, resources, technically, what are resources? What is the definition of the resources? What is the meaning of the resources? Everything available in our environment which can be used to satisfy our needs, provided it is technically acceptable, economically feasible and culturally acceptable, can be termed as the resource. Children, you see, take the gold mines. Take the gold mines. Gold mines formed in a particular region. When we have adequate technology, updated technology, and the gold mines extraction is economically feasible, and they are accessible and culturally acceptable, then we can set as the resource. Then take the atom bomb. Atom bombs are made out of the minerals uranium and thorium. They may be technically accessible, economically feasible, but if we use the atom bombs for destruction, then culturally we can say not acceptable. In such a case, we can't say that atom bombs are the resources. So children, resources means everything available in our environment which can be used to satisfy our needs, provided they are technologically acceptable, economically feasible and culturally acceptable, can be termed as a resource. Then children, see, classification of resources. In general, resources are classified into two categories, broadly: natural and human resources. Natural resources further classified into two categories, renewable and non-renewable resources. Then coming to the renewable resources further classified into two categories, namely continuous or flow. For example, wind, water and forest. Forests are well-known examples, good examples for continuous and flow. Then biological resources. These biological resources further classified into two types, natural vegetation and wildlife. Okay, then come to this side, non-renewable resources. Non-renewable resources also further divided into two categories, namely recyclable. See, some of the metals which can be used, and after their use they can be recycled and again used. So they are recyclable resources. Then another one is non-recyclable. For example, fossil fuels. Take coal, petroleum and natural gas. Every day we are using. Once we use them, they get exhausted. They cannot be used again and again. They cannot be renewed. They are not replenishable. So they are called as the non-recyclable resources. Then coming to the human resources. Human resources are also further classified into two groups or two categories, namely structures and institutions. See, our Navodaya Vidyalayas are colleges, schools, factories and industries. They can be said as an example for institutions. Once they are built, they are created built by using powerful human brain, human intelligence. They are all creations of the human beings. Then dams, take dams, reservoirs, parks, industries, railways, roadways, they are all the examples for the structures and institutions. They are the best known examples for the human made resources. Then again, quantity and quality. Quantity and quality. Human beings are creating so many resources of good quality and good quantity. So, this is the general classification of the resources. Then, children, see, types of resources. Types of resources. Then, on the basis of origin, the resources are classified into the two categories, two types, biotic and abiotic. We discuss what are biotic resources. Biotic resources are obtained from the biosphere, that is living and organic materials such as forest, animals, and the materials can be obtained from the biosphere called as the biotic resources. Again, I am saying biotic resources are obtained from the biosphere. Okay, that they have the life. For example, forest, forest, animals. So, the things obtained from the biosphere that have life and living organism can be said as the biotic resources. Then you can see here are the forest. You see these are the forest example for the body. Then abiotic resources. Abiotic resources are those that come from non-living and non-organic materials. Non-living and non-organic materials. Children, look at the screen. Look at the pictures. The stones, pebbles, small rock pieces, and then see these are the metals. Different objects, different tools, different instruments made out of the metals and minerals. They are all, we can say, good example for the abiotic because they don't have life. They are not living organisms. So this is the basic difference between the biotic and abiotic. Still, I'm repeating. Listen, biotic resources are obtained from the biosphere that they have the life. For example, forest and animals. Then abiotic resources are those that come from the non-living and non-organic materials. Examples: minerals, metals, stones, pebbles, and small rock pieces, etc. So this is the first way of classification. Then children see. Second one, on the basis of exhaustibility, the resources are of two types, renewable and non-renewable resources. Okay, now we discuss what are renewable resources and non-renewable resources. Children see, renewable resources are ones that can be replenished naturally. Some of these resources like sunlight, air, wind, etc. are continuously available and their quantity is not noticeable affected by the human consumption. See, continuously available, they can be replenished, so they are described, they can be said as the renewable resources. For example, solar energy, wind energy, geothermal energy, tide energy. There are good examples for the we can see in the picture in the screen. Then see children. Next, non-renewable resources. A natural resource such as coal, gas, oil that once consumed cannot be replaced. Most energy resources currently in use are non-renewable. As earlier I said, fossil fuels, once we use them, they gets exhausted. Suppose keeps on continuously using them, they cannot be replenished. So they included under the category of non-renewable resources. Children, another way of classification. On the basis of ownership, the resources are further classified into four categories: individual resources, community owned resources, national resources, and international resources. Okay, see, first, what are individual resources? These are the resources which are owned by an individual and cannot be accessed by someone. Okay, these are the resources held by, owned by individuals, private individuals, private families, which can't be accessed by someone. For example, land, property, houses, cars, etc. Suppose we say in villages, the farmers having land on their own. In towns and cities, people having houses, buildings, shops, etc. Complete ownership, all rights over the properties held by the private individuals, a particular person or private families. So that can be said as the individual resources. We can see pictures. Children see beautiful buildings, houses, plots, shops, etc. Then here see. Then children, community-owned resources. Community resources are a group of assistance programs that are provided to the members of a community for free. Example, public parks and village commons. See, and community resources are nothing but the resources which can be accessed, which can be used by many people, large number of people, all people. For example, see, public parks, beaches, museums, roads. Then, coming to the villages, village burial ground, playground, okay, grazing grounds. So these are all good examples for the community-owned resources. Anybody can use. All people having common rights. Okay, this is the basic difference between individual and community resources. Children. Then another type, as I said, national resources. All the resources belongs to the nation. The country has legal power to acquire even private property for public good. Okay, when a country has a legal power, legal rights to acquire even private property for the interest of large number of people, for the public interest, urban development authorities get empowered by governments to acquire land. Sometimes, see, when a railway line is built, a roadway is built, or any projects or any canal, that canal government intended to build, that if require any private lands of the farmers, then government has the legal power, legal authority, legal rights to take from the farmers and for the benefit of large number of people, for the public. So such a type of resource called as national resources. For example, you see water resources. What is forest? Suppose then Indian railways. They're all national resources. Then coming to the international resources, all the resources lying beyond 200 kilometers of exclusive economic zone in the oceans are called as an international resource. Please let's say up to 12 nautical miles from the sea coast, the country can use. The country has the legal power. Beyond 12 nautical miles and then beyond 200 kilometers of exclusive economic zone, no country has the ownership, no country has the legal rights to use the resources in the open oceans and the seas or the bed of the oceans and the seas. So no individual country can use without the permission of the international agencies. So beyond 200 kilometers, no country without prior permission of the international agencies can use the resources from oceans, seas bed of the oceans and the seas. So this is the basic difference between national and international resources. See, children, Indian national resources given different minerals, coal mines, iron ore, limestone, mica, bauxite, chromite, diamond. So they all are examples for the natural resources. They have farmed in different regions and distributed all over the country in varied quantity, varied quality, and varied types. Then children, see, on the basis of the status of the development, the resources are of four types: potential resources, developed resources, stock, and reserves. Okay, we see now what are potential resources? Children, these are known to exist and may be used in the future. For example, petroleum may exist in many parts of India and Kuwait, that they have sedimentary rocks, but until that time it is actually drilled out and put into use, it remains a potential resources. Okay, resources are formed, resources are deposited, but until the time it is actually drilled out and put into use, it remains as a potential resource. Next, coming to the another type, developed resources. These are the resources that have been surveyed, their quantity and quality and determined and are being used in present times. Okay, resources are surveyed, determined their quantity and quality and are being used in the present time right now, called as the developed resources. Then stock, stock, stock resources are those that have been surveyed but cannot be used by organizations due to lack of technology. Okay, for example, water is a compound of two inflammable gases. You know, water, everywhere we see, we use, it is a compound of two inflammable gases, hydrogen and the oxygen, which cannot be used as a rich source of energy. We have plenty of water in our environment on the earth's surface, and it is a compound of two inflammable gases. They can be used as a rich source of energy, but we have not enough upgraded technology to use it. Then that's where the called as stock. Then reserve resources, the part of an actual resource which can be developed profitably in the future is called a reserve resource. Suppose the water in the dams and the forests, etc., is a reserve which can be used in future. So water is available everywhere in the forest, then and the dams and the rivers, but we are not using entire quantity of the water for the generation of electricity. So then children, we see, yes, development of resources. So with increasing population, the demand for resources is increasing. You know, population is on the rise. Every day, the every day some many births are taking place, adding to the existing population. So the increasing population puts demand for resources. So we need to develop the resource. And then there are marked differences in resource distribution and associated economic inequality between regions and countries, with developed countries using more natural resources and then the developed countries. Okay, it means unequitable distribution of resources. Unequitable distribution. Some regions having variety of mineral resources in varied quantity and varied quality. Some regions are having the resources but not enough quantity and not adequate quality. Then, so there is an inequitable distribution of resources and there is an inequitable consumption of resources. Developed countries are using much of the resources, but underdeveloped countries, backward countries are not using, unable to use due to lack of technology, unable to access the resources comparatively than the developed countries. Then, typical resources cannot be consumed in their original form, but rather through resource development, they must be processed into more usable commodities. Then, typical resources, most of the resources cannot be used as it is in original form. They need to be processed, need to be transformed, need to be processed into the usable form. So, in such a case, the countries or the governments require uh, latest upgraded technology and economic resources, and then intelligence, knowledge, technically know-how. So these are the things important. So, uh, keeping in view of this situation requires the governments to have a proper resource planning. Then, sustainable development. Okay, sustainable development. This is a new concept introduced in the world in the 21st century, so 20th century. What is sustainable development? Development in the present. Without development in the present shall not, development in the present shall not disturb the environment and shall not compromise the needs of the future generations. Sustainable development constantly seeks to achieve social and economic progress in ways that will not exhaust Earth's finite national resources. In brief, I am telling children, sustainable development is nothing but the development in the present should not destruct the environment and at the same time shall not compromise the needs of the future generations. So, to the sustainable development, countries must have a resource planning for the efficient use of available resources, for the efficient use of available resources judiciously. So this is called sustainable development. Then children, you see soil. Children, see problems created by indiscriminate use of resources. What is happening is now the governments or the countries or the organizations or individuals using the resources indiscriminately to fulfill their needs, to meet their greedy interest or selfish interest. So, what is happening is many resources got depleted. Many resources got depleted. Suppose if you keep on extracting resources, one day their stocks definitely gets exhausted. So our future generations would suffer. So many resources in the universe, in the Earth's surface, got depleted. For example, forest. Forest cover at rapid rate depleting. Area under the forest declining or depleting at rapid rates. Then resources got accumulated in the hands of the few people. The society is divided into rich and poor. Yes, concentration and accumulation of resources in one hand or in one family or the group of families. For example, take Tata Group of Industries, Birla Group of Industries. They are controlling much of the properties, much of the resources. So when the resources are concentrated or accumulated in one hand or single hand or with one family, what happens? It widens the gap between the rich and the poor, widens the gap between the haves and the have-nots. This is another problem. Then another one is global warming, ozone layer depletion, environmental degradation are other problems. So indiscriminate use of resources leads to all these problems. So what we have to think, the governments have to have a strategy or a resource planning for the judicious use of the resources to achieve a sustainable economic development. Then one take the soil. Soil is of our life supporting system. Soil is a natural resource. Soil is a gift of nature. The food we eat obtained from the soil. So soil is an important, very precious natural resource. So we must use it properly. We must conserve and manage and use to our life, life of living beings to sustain. Then children, see uppermost layer of the earth crust that is loose, broken, and useful for plants is called the soil. Soil consists of mineral matter such as sand, clay, organic matter such as humus, bacteria, and earthworms. We think soil means only it is a part of the earth's crust or layer of the earth crust. No, soil is what is soil contains many mineral resources and many mineral matters or other natural things like sand, clay, organic matters, fine humus, bacteria, and earthworms to contributing in growing of the crops or indirectly helping us to obtain food. Then, children, soil is formed mainly due to the process of weathering. As a result of weathering, a layer of loose rock materials is formed on the land surface. Then, children, there are some factors contributing in the formation of the soil. Factors influencing formation of the soil. One is climate. Climate decides the rate of weathering and the type of vegetation. We see different types of soils, different types of vegetation in our environment, in our locality, in our vicinity. So, climate is a major factor that determines the type of soil formed on the earth crust. Then second one is topography. Topography of the land decides the accumulation of soil. Okay, another factor, topography. Then other one is nature of parent rock. Nature of parent rock. Parent rock means bedrocks. Suppose it decides composition and texture of the soil. We see we see the soil of different texture, different color, and containing different mineral resources, nutrients. See, it all depends upon soil. Depends upon the what is rocks. Rocks formed below the rocks formed below the earth's crust. Then another one is vegetation. Vegetation decides the amount of humus available in the soil. So these are the four factors determining, governing, or influencing the formation of the soil. Okay? Then soils are our prime resources. Man depends upon the soil directly or indirectly for his food. Already I told. Agriculture can be practiced only if soils are available. Man gets the materials needed for shelter and clothing directly or indirectly gets from the soil. Soils are essential for the growth of forest also. So, soil is an indispensable part of our life. We can say soil is an indispensable part of our life. Okay. Then, children, we see the types of soils. Predominantly, there are six types of soils formed in the India. The first one is alluvial soils. You see. Now we discuss characteristics of alluvial soils, distribution, and characteristics of the alluvial soils. Sleep. Children. Okay. Alluvial soil is the most fertile, widespread soil found in India. Sometimes CBSE got one more question of name which is the most widely spread soil. Which is the most widely spread soil in India? Means then alluvial soil, widespread soil. It is formed due to the deposition of fine silt called alluvium by the rivers. And alluvial soils are formed by the fine silt brought by the rivers It is found in the Northern Plains, Gujarat Plains, and coastal plains. It consists of sand, silt, and clay. So alluvial soils are formed North Indian plains, Gujarat plains, and the coastal plains. Okay, then consists of silt, sand, and clay. Then another type, black soils. So let's see. Look at the picture. Since the soil is black in color, it is named as the black soil. Then children, it is also called as the ragar soil. Ragar soil. Another name. Once it was asked, what is another name for the black soil? What is the name? Another name? Ragar soil. Then black soil is more ideal, suitable, or supports the cultivation of the cotton. Hence, it is called as the black cotton soil. So, three names: black soil, or ragar soil, or black cotton soil. All are remain same. Children, remember. Then, climatic condition, parent rock material are the important factors governs or influencing the formation of the black soil. Black soils typical of the Deccan Tract. Black soils have extensively formed in the Deccan Tract, that is the basalt region, and they are made up of the lava flows. Then plateaus of Maharashtra, Saurashtra, Malwa, Madhya Pradesh, and Chhattisgarh. These black soils extensively formed in the central India, central part of India, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat states, and they are made up of fine clay material. Then another most important characteristic feature of this type of these soils are they have the capacity to hold the moisture, Then rich in calcium carbonate, magnesium, potassium, and lime. But these black soils are poor in phosphoric contents. Then children, these black soils develop deep cracks during hot weather, and these soils are sticky in nature when wet. When the rain falls, the soils turns wet and sticky. When the during summer season, the soils dries up and develops the deep cracks. These are the characteristic features and distribution of the black soils. So the next type of soil are the red soils. See, since they looks red in color, they are called as the red soil, named down as the red soil. Listen, red soils are formed due to the weathering of crystalline igneous rocks under low rainfall conditions. Under the low rainfall condition, the soils are formed by the weathering of crystalline igneous rocks. Then they are red in color because of the presence of iron in it. Okay, why they are looking red? Why they appear red? Because of the presence of iron, and they are called as red soils. Looks red. It is found in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, all South Indian states. Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Andhra Pradesh, except Kerala. Then also Orissa, Chhattisgarh, and Jharkhand states. This type of soils we found. Then children, laterite soils, another type of soils. You look at the laterite soils. See, the word laterite originated from the Latin language. Latin words, later. See, laterite, the word laterite is an English word, but derived from the Latin word later, which means the brick. Then, laterite soils is formed due to intense leaching caused by tropical rainfall. Remember, laterite soils formed due to intense leaching caused by the tropical rainfall. Then, humus content is less because microorganisms get destroyed due to high temperature. Due to high temperature, microorganisms get destroyed. So, less humus content the soil possesses or contains. Okay, this is about laterite soil. Then children, arid soils, another type of soil, arid soil. It is also called as the desert soil. Desert soil. Okay, we see arid soils are red or brown in color. They are sandy and saline. Humus and moisture content are very less. They can be cultivated after irrigation. Okay, so arid soils or desert soils can be cultivated after the irrigation. Contour layer in the soil prevents the water from seeping under the ground. The contour layer obstructs, prevents the water from seeping into the ground. Then another soil, forest soil or mountain soil, another name mountain soil. Forest soil or the mountain soil. See, then forest soils are found in the hilly and mountainous regions. They are loamy and silty in valleys and coarse in the upper slopes. In Himalayas, they suffer denudation and are acidic with low humus content. In Himalayas regions, what is Himalayas covered with the snow and ice. During summer season, snow melts and move down the slopes. Then denudation takes place, and then they are acidic and loses the humus content. So the soils found in the lower slopes of the valley are fertile. Lower slopes are fertile, but upper slopes, due to denudation and acidity, the soils are not more fertile than silver. This is about the types of soil. I told what is a soil and how is soil formed, factors contributing in the formation of the soil, and types of soil. Then children look at soil erosion. Removal of topsoil from one place to another by natural agencies, natural agents called the soil erosion. And the removal of the top layer of the soil by the natural agents like the water, wind, moving ice. These are all called natural agents. So removal of the top layer, removal of the topsoil from one place to another by the natural agents like wind, water, glaciers, or moving ice called as the soil erosion. This is the important concept. One or three more questions ever alternatively is being asked in the board examination. It is possible by running water, as I said. Soil erosion is possible by running water and wind. Next, deforestation, overgrazing, unscientific agricultural practices are responsible for large-scale soil erosion in India. So, much of the soil erosion taking place due to human activities. Human beings are a major part of the soil erosion. So, deforestation, overgrazing, unscientific agricultural practices. These are all human activities contributing for the soil erosion. Then, children see types of soil erosion. The rainwater, when moves down on an uneven land, scoops away the soil and form deep channels called the gullies. This type of erosion called as the gully erosion. The rainwater, when moves down the slopes, uneven surfaces, uneven land, scoops away the soil and forms the deep channels. Then this deep channels called as the valleys. A land which is broken into many small parts by the valleys is called the bad land. This is bad land. When this is a bad land, when a land broken into many small parts because of the valleys, by the valleys, called the bad land. Bad land is unfit for the cultivation and for other economic activities. So gully erosion, gullies causing are responsible for the bad lands which are unfit for the cultivation. This is the negative and drawback, demerit of the gullies. Then children, see, look into the screen picture, gully erosion. Okay, when the rainwater moves down uneven lands, scoops away the soil and forms the deep trenches or deep channels develop the deep channels is as seen. They are called as the gullies, and when heavy rains takes place, and then the soil lifts up and takes away by the water, got eroded by the water, and hence it is called as the gully erosion. Then children see another one is sheet erosion. Another type of soil erosion is sheet erosion. Look at the picture. Then sometimes water flows as a sheet over large areas down a slope. The water takes away the topsoil, and hence it is called as the soil. And then when the rain falls after some time, the rainwater begins to spread, begins to move down the slope, begins to move on the earth surface from elevated regions to low-lying regions, like the sheet, then takes away of the fine particles top soil, then it is called as the sheet erosion. Then children, soil conservation measures. So, how we can conserve? So, what we understood is soil erosion. Soil is an important natural resource, but the soil erosion taking place. So, we need to conserve the soil. So, how can what the steps, what measures are the steps can be taken to control this soil erosion and conserve the soil resource? So one is contour cropping, reduces the flow of water and prevent the soil erosion. On the slopes of the hills, on the slopes of the mountains, instead of ploughing up and down, the ploughing along the contour lines, ploughing along the contour lines by the farmers. This is a scientific farming, scientific method. I told unscientific farming methods contributing to the soil erosion. So scientific method is when farming, when we farm on the slopes of hills and mountains, instead of ploughing top to bottom or up and down, it is better to plough the soil along the contour lines. It is a popular farming, scientific farming practice called as the contour ploughing. Then in hilly areas, I told terrace farming should be followed. Hilly areas, the steps, what is the slopes? Slopes can be cut into the steps, basing on their contour lines, basing on the height of the place. Then farming can be carried out. That is called this what is it, terrace farming. And another method, strip farming, helps to reduce the force of the wind. When the farming fields are very large, then the farming fields can be cut into the pieces. In between two fields, a strip can be left out for growing of the grass, growing of the grass. So this grass regulates the speed of the wind, so that the top layer cannot be lifted, taken away by the what is it? Moving wind, blowing wind. That is called as strip farming. Then another one is shelter belts of plants around the fields reduce the soil erosion. Especially this method is followed in the coastal regions nearer to the beaches, sea coast. What happens is single line in rows, in series of rows, the saplings are planted, trees are grown to that prevents the speed of the wind, regulate the speed of the wind, and prevent lifting of the top layer by the force of the wind. This is called the shelter belt. Then another one is afforestation should be practiced on a large scale, and deforestation should be stopped. Afforestation is against the deforestation, and planting more and more plants, more and more saplings. So because the roots of the plants binds the soil together, holds the soils together, and do not give way to the moving water or rainwater to lift up the wash away of the top layer. That is why afforestation is another one. Then overgrazing by animals should be avoided. Overgrazing of the animals should be avoided. By taking these steps, taking these measures, we can conserve the soil and also prevent the soil erosion. Children, with this, our lesson is over. Thank you very much. I hope you all enjoyed and understood my presentation. Thank you once again.